We got about 8 or 9 willow arches planted on the croft now. This is the biggest one, and it's just got tied in today. So basically, this is how we made it. So I'm in the position where I want to put a new archway in. In terms of position, we're breaking up this whole section into a series of rooms, and these will be the doorways between them, if you like. So you can see here we've got an existing willow fence that went in a year ago. It's hard up here, it's a tough environment. Things take a while to get established, but once they get going, they fly up. This is at 1 year. Next year might get over it. Usually the year after it'll start to go up, really quite quickly. This is a willow arch that I planted last winter. You can see pretty significant cuttings, and they've taken quite nicely. So they got established this year. Next year they'll just come on more aggressively. So I want to, so that's the entrance into this area, but this is too big because this willow wall goes right across the top of the site. So I want to break down this area. So just set back from that doorway a bit. I want to put a wall across here, and I want an archway right here. So these are ones that I literally just cut. Now normally you do this in a season when it's dormant. It's not ideal to do this in, with live willow at this time of year. It's currently September. You can see everything's still in the green, but you can get like a 99% success rate with, going into good soil with willow ones in the winter. This time of year, 50-60% maybe. Still worth doing. I got plenty of material, and it's useful for the purposes of this video. But just so you know, you wouldn't normally do this time of year. It's reasonably wet. We've had a fair bit of rain, so I'm not too worried about going in the ground. I'm going to get, I reckon, at least a foot. I try and get as much as I can, which at this time of year is about a foot. Now, I don't want to. I could leave this completely if it was in a really sheltered spot, and it'd probably do okay. It'd lose the leaves and then come back. But this in itself will be a huge flag, as I say, it's very exposed up here. So I'm going to take it off at that kind of height. But it's literally just repeat that. Keep putting willow into the ground. That one's gone even deeper. So that's 2. Now I'm going to work out what sort of gap do I want here. I don't need a really big doorway here. I want to keep it fairly small. So look, I'd say that's probably plenty. That's nice wide enough for a wheelchair to get through, for example, which is what I usually use as a gauge. Now that's straight into a stone. There we go. And that's gone in about 18 inches. Now I said I'll take the tip off that again, just because otherwise it's a flag, and they get ripped out of the ground if the winds get high enough. So I'm gonna, once they get to the whippy end bit, there we go. It tends to want to fold rather than go in the ground. This is a lot easier in winter when it's really wet soil. So I've got 2 each side, and I'm just going to keep duplicating that until I run out of material and balance it both sides. So I've got roughly the same number of cuttings. Now these are a bit thin. I'm not really going to get them into the ground probably. So I'm just going to clip them. Yeah, say they need sharpening. I'm going to clip them and just drop it on the ground. It's not usable for much else. And it's really not a big deal. I've got so much of it. Can't see that tried to bend on itself. There we go. It's not actually snapping, but it is trying to fold. That doesn't want to go into the ground. See, that's got a bit of a curve on it. The straighter they are, the easier it is. So that was trying to bend. You can get away with it in winter sometimes when, there we go, when the ground's nice and wet, but not at this time of year. I see how much easier that's going. That's gone easily a foot deep, and just from taking that curved end off. See that one? That's got a curve on the end. That has to come off, just to make it easier. So I'll put another couple in on this side. And it's easy to look at this up here and think it's just a couple of sticks in a field. It is. All of this was sticks in a field once upon a time. Now we're at 10,000 trees. Some of them are up to 25 feet maybe. Some of the bigger older. It's easy to get demotivated, but you know, slowly the site is developing. Now these might be a bit thin. Oh no, that's going in. That's okay. Now, as I say, it's wet enough this time of year, so most of them will take, hopefully, but there's no guarantees of that. If we have some bad weather now, for example, they won't take at all. Now, I'll look up here in a week, and these will look dead at this time of year, because they're gonna lose their leaves. But there's a lot of energy in the stalk itself, and yeah, I'm having to push these in harder than normal because it's so dry compared to in winter when they go in. This really is much easier. So that's all of them in. You can see with a little bit of trimming, that's easy to keep, you know, wheelchair wide going up and over. We'll complete wing wells across in both directions, probably a couple of years. But of course, to get that effect, they only have to come up to maybe 3 or 4 feet. These, by the time we finish twisting and winding it all in, we're talking 15, 20 foot ones ideally. So, well, 10 easily. So these are the more important factors to get into the landscape ahead of putting the walls in. So at this point, all I need to do is clip them down. But as I said, really, wrong time of year for this. This is just a demonstration. But still, it'll probably work. Willow is incredibly resilient. We've had a reasonable amount of rain recently, so that shouldn't make too much of a hindrance. And there we go. And that's it, the beginnings of a willow arch. If you do it at the right time of year, you'll get a lot more success and you'll find it easier. But this gives you the idea. Right, next step is a couple of years on, they need to start twining in. So this is the bottom swale, this is the biomass swale where we grow this biomass willow. This is Bowles hybrid. This will ordinarily be coppiced every year. It'll be take off down to ground level just so we get some sun into the greenhouse that'll eventually be here. In the meantime, I'm not worrying about it, I'm just letting it do its thing. But this section will always remain because this is a crossing point for bringing the geese out on their lane where you can hear them in the background. I hope they don't come up because that gets loud. So this is going to remain as an archway because, you know, this will always remain open. So what we could do is we could just take that, for example, could bend that over with one of those and we could almost, you know, twine that together at head height. But that's not what I actually want to do here. I prefer a different aesthetic to that. That'll totally work, but what I prefer to do is I like to make big cables of multiple shoots. I do that just by twining them together, and it's almost like plaiting, but not quite. I don't want it to be quite that regular. I want it to be a little more random than that. But in general principle, I'm not just winding one around the other, I'm also including the third one occasionally and switching out which ones I'm working with to give it a bit more variation. And then take that back around a bit. And you can see already that's starting to shape itself into quite a nice cable. That needs a bit more. See, that's a bit loose down here. There's a bit too much of a gap. I want to wind that a bit more. And yeah, I'm quite pleased with that. So at this point, I'll just take that tip there. I'll tie it, see that's just snapped. So I'll bring it back a bit further, just so I'm not working at the bent bit. But it'll still take. It's snapped, but it hasn't broken off. So the bark's still attached, so it'll work. I'm using that just to wind around it. And then this loose end here, all I'll do is I'll open up a gap there with my fingers, force a gap, and then I'll jam that end there through that gap. Ah, it's hard on the fingers, and that is now locked in place. And you can see You know, we're actually approaching, do you know, I could almost tie that one in, but I want more material to be able to do it. So that's one cable. I want to do at least one other big one over here, and then these ones I'll use to just make a little one for an infill. This has actually gone a bit this way because of the way I tied it, but you can see it's so flexible. It won't be a problem to tie it in back here. It's really not an issue. So I'll take, let's have a look. 1, 2. Actually, no, I'll leave that one because I want to give something with a bit of size into the center section. So I'll take 1, 2, and I'll take this one as well. That's a big one. And then I'll start winding these together. I mean, this is fairly significant material, but it's still quite flexible. So at this point, I've wound those two around that one. So I'll switch out to holding these two together, and I'll wind this one around. And you can see, so I've got a natural fork here. So I'm going to take it around the other. Oh, here they come. Hello. Hello. Yeah. Hello. Yeah. Hello. We'll let them get over it. It'll only take a minute. Yeah. Hello. Yeah. Okay. Yes. Hello. Oh, I'm really muddy now. Okay. So I'll try it again. If they think I'm talking to them, they'll get loud. So we're going to talk quietly. Okay, so there's a natural fork here. So I'm going to go around the wider section and use the side chute almost as though it's just another section, as if it's existed from all the way down here. You know, we're not going to treat it any differently. And then we're going to turn that one. We're actually running lowish on material here, so I'm going to take one more turn around it. See, I'm bound up in the one opposite. One more turn, and then we're going to see I'm down to quite short. So I'm going to back that up, keeping it not too much of a curve. I don't want to try and snap it like last time. Once around it, and then here I'm going to separate out. So yeah, so that's my loose end. I need to separate out. That's not a strand, actually, straight through the center of it. And I'm going to tuck that through the gap that I've just created while I'm getting nibbled on. See how professional I am? Getting nibbled by geese, still keeping in the zone. Right, we good? Okay. So I've got this one remaining. This has got a fair old lean on it, so I think I'm actually not going to integrate this one. So if I integrate that one, that's then going to bring the whole archway, which is nicely, you know, arcing over. It's going to bring that straight across here, and I don't want that, so I'll leave that out of it. In fact, just to get it out the way. Here you go, give them something to have a chew on. There you go. Yeah, I know. Yes. Good boy. Go and have a snack. So, what have I got? I got one decent one and a couple of smaller ones. So I'm going to wind these in. Actually, I'll bring that down low. And then up here, I got a side chute, which is really useful. So I'm going to continue to wind this around that central stem until I get to there. And then this side chute here, I'm going to take the opposite direction. So there's no standardized way that I do this. I want them to look fairly random. So a lot of it depends on the willow, you know. If the willow doesn't want to bend in a certain way, fine, I'll bend it the other way. So, and at that point I'm going to switch back to taking that as the longest one. No, I'm not. That's right rigid, that's going to snap. See, I'm getting that feedback. So I'm going to take this other one here, wind that around. Now the tip of this will probably die. You know, it probably won't entirely survive, but it's okay because it'll have held this whole thing together. It's going to try and, I got too much of a curve there, it's going to try and snap. So I'm just feeding it through by hand. There we go. I could even get a second tuck with this one. There we go. See, because these are fairly narrow, you know, jamming it through isn't going to be as effective. They're not rigid, it's not going to lock in place. So I've just done a simple wrap around it and tuck back on itself, like a simple overhand knot. These smaller things, at this point, I can just weave into these. Easy as that. That one as well, I'll just tuck in here. And that one as well. And as easy as that, you know, another cutting that one strand, I've had no tools, I've needed nothing at all. And you can see I've got 3 sections that are almost, in fact these probably are, ready enough for twining in. I still want to get it a little bit higher, so maybe towards the end of the season, because on this side you can see, you know, that's quite a bit. Now the swale's wider on this side than this side, that will be expanded over time, but I'm not worried about having a really wide bit here to a narrow bit here. It's all interest, you know, I'm not trying to make it entirely symmetrical. Hello, you back? Okay. Come on, say hello. Good boy. Okay. Right, so that's the twining in. You can see how simple that is, really easy. Next is into tying the whole thing off. This is the biggest willow arch that we've put in. It's taken some doing. I've planted this 3 times. First year, we had a massive drought, all of them died, every single one. Second year, all of them died, except one each side. But the third one stayed up. Didn't get a drought the third year, and we were able to go with it. It's been a couple of years to get to this stage beyond that. You know, when you like weave anything together, like platting, it reduces the length a lot because of all the backwards and forwards motion. You know, it just reduces the length a lot. So this 2 years ago was actually long enough to tie together as a single strand. That isn't what I wanted. I want this as an aesthetic. I want, you know, a really wound up, twisted, beautiful example of a really willow arch, not just something quick and fast. I wanted to go for something that's going to be solid. And look, even the single strands are going to look very decorative because there's, you know, 5 of them. So I can't remember how many cuttings we put in each side that actually took, but we've woven and twisted and divided them up until we've got 5 big cables. This is probably the biggest one in terms of girth. It is significant. It's a solid lump. But it's not got a corresponding one the other side that's anywhere near as big. This is really quite wimpy by comparison. So I'm going to match up the longest ones first. Cats come over. We're going to match up the longest ones first, just because that lets me set the scale and the height for the whole thing. I don't have a step ladder, so we're improvising. What could go wrong? This is the first one that I'm tying in, this one here. I know there is plenty of overlap, but this is one of those jobs. There you go. That's safe. This is one of those jobs that really you need 3 hands for. So I brought one. So I want to bring that one down, and then, come on, no, it's going to make me go down. This one, we already can see just how flexible this stuff is. It's very forgiving. So I'm going to overlap these, and you can see just how much growth I've got. I'm going to overlap these at probably, let's have a look, this kind of point. Be careful to not let go of either. It's all very spring loaded. So if something just snapped. Doesn't matter, there's plenty of strands in here. So I'll tie that one off there, and then we'll step back and have a look. You know, I think Maybe a bit higher than that. Yeah, that's a little bit low. You know, I could almost do that with clippers. I'm going to take it up a little bit higher. And this is the advantage of using the clamp, is it lets me adjust this stuff and then come back and have a look. That's more like it. See, that is, you know, a nice, decent arch. Yeah. Okay, so at this point, I'm analysing what have I got. I'm going to leave that clamp in place for the moment, but I'm going to analyse what I've got by way of side branch. You can see that's pretty good on this side. So I'm going to leave those vertical because they're going to be easy to tie in afterwards. And I'm going to take a few of these loose strands. In fact, I might even have to pull that one out of the clamp. There we go. These need a little bit of winding. Around the whole thing. So that's an individual strand here. I'm not doing whole handfuls of this stuff. I'm just winding individual ones around and poking it through a gap, same as I have elsewhere. Poke it through a gap and tighten that off. So already that's enough to hold this in place. So then I'm going to take a strand from this side. Just 1 second. I'm going to tuck this in. No one needs to be seeing that. There we go, that's better. Right, I'll take this one. See, wardrobe malfunction. Yeah, that's broken, but the bark is still attached. So, not by much, no, that's a dead. So, we'll take this one carefully and we'll put that one around. This is normally so easy, but it's difficult because of the height in this case. So, and the other thing is, of course, if I had a really good step ladder, this would also be easier. So, a bit more of that into there. And that's gone through so many. I'm going to let that now do its thing, and that'll grow vertically. What else have we got? So I might even, no, I'll let that in. I was going to clip it off, but what else have we got? I've got a loose one here. That's a nice one. There we go. I come down here for this. There we go. I'm just tucking things in wherever they'll go and tugging them in and tying them in as tight as I can. That's looking pretty good already. I'll come to this side and finish up, but I'll do a little bit more here. There's this strand here. I'm just winding it around repeatedly. Through a gap there. Oh, yeah, I've got a break there, but oh, 2 breaks. Oh well, it's okay. There's plenty of it tied in. So some of the tips might well die because I am getting some breakages, but it's not an issue. This being as early in the year as it is, we're only mid-September, these will continue to grow for a while, and all the new growth at this point will continue to knit the whole thing together. It's going to become much, much stronger. Let's take that out my way. Now these branches here that I'm tying in, normally we wouldn't really bother with it. I'm going to take the clamp off at this point because it's not going anywhere. And now I can tie around the area that had the clamp on it as well, which gives me a little bit more freedom. Right, that's a lovely section. I've got no breakages at all in that. So I'm going to take a bigger section and tuck that through. There we go. So you can see how strong that's getting. I mean, that's not going anywhere. And it's more of the same really. We just continue to wind and wrap and tuck. And every single time I do it, I'm laying more and more material over the sections that are joined. So I'm pleased with that. Let's do a couple more and then I'm going to come across to that side and do the same. In fact, I'm going to put one this way. That's a breakage, but that's okay. That one will probably take. See, as long as the bark is still attached, a lot of the time, the interior, yeah, that's fine. It's like a green stick fracture. So this last one I'm going to put in fact, yeah, let's put this one in exactly the same way. And that's nice. So I'm going to come then to the other side of it so I can tie in the loose ends. So I can take that out of the equation. Actually, I'll just tuck some of this stuff in just to keep it out of my way. And there's really big gaps here, so I can just shove that up in there. It's not really structural, it's just tucking it out of the way. So it can be really quite pretty with it just wound around. And I tuck that in there as well. So with that strand out of the way, you can see there's only a few bits to tuck in here. So I think I'm better off moving my highly safe. Okay, that's better. That was a bit wobbly even for me. But of course I do have this like an iron to as well. Kind of. So, okay, so I've got this strand here, which is separate from that one. Now you see there's this loose stuff here. I'm going to bind all that together. And then I'm taking this one around it to hold that in place, because the ends that I twined in from the other side are down inside here. So the tighter I can get this, the better. And then I'm going to prise out a section and I'm going to tuck that in. Come on, there we go. And pull that through. And that's it, we're done. With 1 of 5. Very pleased with that. Okay. Now I just need to do the others. On this first ring, I've encountered a bit of an issue in that this one here, because it's growing across at this angle, I'd have to train it up in that direction because of the way it's wanting to grow. And having gone to great lengths to make this the nice, beautiful shape that I have, I don't then want to come through here and just, you know, pinch this up at the front, because the fact that it opens up inside doesn't change the fact that I want this to be really open. So we're going with a change of plan. Instead, what I'm going to do is I'm going to integrate these two front ones into this, and that'll make it incredibly strong. But this is also slightly limited by the fact that it's been tied off previously, so I'm going to actually unwind this. See how forgiving this stuff is. This was tied off last year. And there we are. We got individual rods again. But it still wants to grow straight across, and I want that arch. So what we're going to do instead is I'm just going to wind this, not too much. I'm just going to wind it a little bit around this because I don't want it to deform. Actually, whoops. that actually I could bend all the way back and incorporate into this one. That's how flexible this stuff is. But no, I think we're going to go with this one. So I'm going to make it nice and flexible because it doesn't want to move in this direction, of course. But I don't want this to start deforming this by pulling it in new and unexpected directions, because I'm really pleased with the shape. Okay, so we go over here. So it goes to show you've got to keep, years I've been looking forward to doing this. I had it visualized in my head 1,000 times. But this is new information. And there's no point just following my original plan to the detriment of the aesthetic I've been after all this time. Yeah, I'm quite pleased with that. Definitely the right decision. And then we just have this one that I'll do the same thing with. So I need to get it flexed up a little bit just so it's not going to see, let's do it the other way around. Okay, I need to move this. Tuck the shirt again. That'll do. And then so it's all gone around as a single bundle. Okay, and then I'm going to take this lot here. At this point, as I say, they're just a single bundle that's been wrapped around, so I'm going to weave these together with a bit of a plait type thing, plait, and then just so they don't completely undo. So then I got something that's more rigid to tuck through. Oh, here we go, a nice loop there. There we go. Yeah, I'm very pleased with that. Definitely the right decision. There we go. Excellent. But it means I've got this massive cable here spare. I mean, that's really pretty. I'll just get these out of the way. Normally these would be just clipped off and dropped on the base of them just to feed it, and I might even trim it up before I'm done. But because that's, I'm really pleased with that. But this now I need to integrate with the end without deforming it too badly. So, yeah, that's fine. Yeah, I'm going to do the same thing here. I'm going to untie this end. In fact, come and have a close look at this. This is amazing. So you can see where I tied that off 2 years ago, where I literally just wrapped it around it, tucked it in and left it. And that's been there through multiple days at 70 miles an hour. It's just, we get huge winds here. Yeah, that end's just broken now. But, I mean, you can see, nothing's permanent with this. I can still undo this. After a while, it does become permanent. It will fuse. But of course, because the end was the last bit to be wound, that's broken there. Again, that's only an end, doesn't matter. There we go. So now I've got enough loose material here to start incorporating this. So I'm going to bring the whole thing over. And at this point I'm separating out, so I've only got the one biggest branch. And I'll check after I've done this to make sure that I haven't put too much of a deformity into the shape I'm after. This is a lot of material. I'll take that under here. Come on, there we go. Oh, I'll step back and have a look. Yeah, I'm still pleased with that. That's fine. Okay, so let's wrap more of this then. So I'll take the next long one. I'll tuck that one. Yeah, well, that wasn't quite enough to hold on. So I'll do this one. Nice. There we go. It's all variations on a theme at this point. It's all just twist and tuck. Let's put that one round this way. The thing is, of course, now the original, we'll just get that through somewhere. There we go. Yeah, the original joint of all of this is so buried in overlapping twigs and sticks. So yeah, we're pretty much there. Nice. So I'll just finish this one up. Bit more to tie in. I want to take this down and yeah, a little break there, no big deal. That'll probably survive okay, and really then it's just a question of where do I stop with this stuff. But I think probably I'm there. I'm quite happy to let the side go that way, or maybe that one shoot. That's quite a big shoot. I'll take that one through there. Actually, that's quite nice. Just tuck through that gap. Now I've got a huge gap here, might as well use it. And then all I need to do is tidy this little section here in the centre, and that arch is done. I suppose theoretically that's 2 arches done. just to tidy these up really, so I haven't got, you know, the living ends hanging down. Doesn't really matter, they would go vertical again very quickly. And at this point I think I'm just gonna clip a few of these. And that's it. First arch done. Right, the rest of it's more of the same. I'll spare you that. We'll come back at the end. So that one went much more easily. So after the first one, obviously major struggle because they were so big. You can see just how much easier it is without the cables being quite so developed. But, so what I reckon, probably about there. So I'll put a clamp on. Yeah, I'd say that it may be a bit less. Perfect. So with that done, basically now I'll take, there we go, this down just a touch, and then these sections that are the ends of the left here, there we go, so I can take those sections. In fact, I'll take half of them. And I can wind them around this material here. Poke them through a gap. And then I can take the clamp off because it's not going anywhere. And then it's just weave the rest in. You see how much quicker and easier that was. This is what it's like when you're not doing a massive one like this. You know, the others were much easier. But I figured might as well show you the more complicated one rather than the, you know, yeah, they're always this easy. They are, except when you make huge ones. I've got a massive, probably 15-20 meter dome that we've planted up, and that'll take a while to come. But weaving that together, that's going to be a challenge. You know, that's going to be, you know, big step ladders, which actually brings me to a useful point. By the time this is finished all fusing and grafting together and it's behaving like a single solid tree that you can walk through, it'll be so solid you can just put a step ladder against it, climb up it and lop off what you need for maintenance very easily. But it needs to get to that stage. But because this, I haven't got to worry about shade or anything particular from it. It's been placed here deliberately, so it doesn't really matter about any shade it casts. It's very it's very easy to just leave it as is, not worry about it. I'll do this side and just come back in maybe 10 years, and then with a little bow saw and loppers, even a folding saw, really, it doesn't take much, I can come through and take significant wood off the top of it. I see it snapped there. That's a shame. It's still actually attached by bark, so I'm going to twine that in all the same. That's a shame. That was a good, strong piece of willow. I think would have really made it better, but there you go. It'll cope. And we've got another one. Where is it? No, that's it then. I've just got this material to wind in. So you see how much quicker and easier that was. It was just, can't even compare in terms of simplicity. So other than just a little bit of tidying up those little side sections. So that's 3 arches done already. So there's one more. I'll not film that, it's more of the same. And that's it, done. So we only ended up with 4 hoops instead of 5. Woo! Safety first. But of course, this front one is really cool looking. I'm pleased with that one. So there's a bit of variation. You can see this one is going to need a little bit of a pull in that direction. That's not a huge deal. It's still quite young. There's still a lot of material that'll be, twined in over the next few years. But really, by the time these have grown in to the point that this twisted section looks like this twisted section, that's going to be getting pretty solid. And over time, the whole lot will fuse together. So everywhere that there's a joint, it'll graft, it'll fuse, it'll join together and become a single tree. It'll become like a single organism. So you'll be walking through an entirely fused living tree going vertical. Some of the newer growth that was shooting up from this end, I've started twining sideways. I'll do the same thing on this side when it develops a bit more, and I'll also do the same thing in 3 or 4 places across the rafters over the next few years, just to really lock the whole thing in. But other than that, and that'll be in a small amount of the material, because other than that, it's just going vertical. So that is a significant bit in the landscape. I'm really pleased with it. I've waited years for this. Very nice.